Okay, well, an official good evening to everyone this evening. Thank you for joining us. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Kieran Johnson. I'm the State Manager for Opportunity International Australia in WA and manage South Australia as well. Really excited to be here with you tonight and grateful that you're part of it. I wanted to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land on which we meet. For me, it's the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, but recognise that we've got folk from right across the country, and I'm really grateful that we've been able to do that in this blessed land that we live in. Um, it is a big night. It's a 50th celebration of opportunity, and a really special time that we can take to look back, also to say thank you to a number of people. And we'll talk about some things to do with sort of opportunities history, where we are now, and where we're going in the future. So tonight you will hear from Calum Scott, who is our Global Impact Director. You'll hear from Scott Walters, who is our CEO, and you'll hear from Annie Wang, who is our Head of Global Health. And so they are definitely people to be looking forward to. You will have an opportunity to put some questions in the chat box in Zoom. I'll be looking through that, and hopefully we'll pull out one or two that we can ask these guys if there's something that comes up in their presentation that you want to know more about or you're a bit unsure of. I will pull that up and we can have a quick chat about that. If we don't get to it, we will absolutely keep record of it and we'll come back to you with an answer. So feel free to put the questions in. But if we don't get to it tonight, don't be afraid. We will connect with you. In the room tonight, the Zoom room, the technological room, we have a number of people who have been supporting Opportunity for a long period of time. And I know for a fact that we have someone here this evening who has been supporting Opportunity for 30 of the 50 years. Someone else has been supporting for 29. A number of people between sort of 20 and 30, and even another group of people who are between sort of 10 and 20. Some folk around 5, and I think there's even one that's been just over 1 year. So it's really lovely to have a vast array of supporters that have been giving for such a long period of time, and some newer folk as well to join the Opportunity family. So thank you to everyone for all that you've done and all that you've been able to do through Opportunity and your generosity. This is really about you and celebrating your impact through the 50 years. We can talk about 50 million lives that have been changed through the work of Opportunity during that time, and you're a significant part of that. So thank you so much, and we hope that you enjoy this evening. So before I get too carried away with myself talking, I would like to introduce our Global Impact Director, Calum Scott. He's the guy who makes sure that we are making the type of impact that we're wanting to, that your generosity is actually making a significant impact in the lives of the people that we're working with. So, Calum, I want to welcome you, and I'm going to hand over to you for your presentation. So thank you so much.
That's great. Thanks, Kieran. And thank you to everyone for giving us your time today and joining this call. I'm excited to have the chance to talk with you and share Opportunities Impact in 2026. My name's Calum Scott. I also recognise some of the names on the participants list as you were joining the call. So I know some of you have heard from me before, but just to quickly introduce myself, I've been working for Opportunity International since I moved from the UK to Australia 18 years ago now. As Kieran mentioned, these days I'm at Opportunity's Global Impact Director, which means I'm focusing on how we can collect data that shows us the impact we're having on the clients and the families that we are serving. I do sometimes get called a data nerd. I will own that label. I am happy to say I'm a bit nerdy, but I'd also say, obviously I've been with Opportunity many years now. I love working for Opportunity, not just because I love data, but also I feel strongly that it's a chance to make some positive impact in the lives of families and communities that we serve. And because so many of those families are excluded from many of the key things that we take for granted, whether that's access to finance or training or healthcare. So I have a little less than 10 minutes to give you an overview of our impact in 2026. I want to share some of the key takeaways that jumped out for me when I looked at the data we collected in the last year. I also want to leave time for questions you might have. So please be ready for your questions. I'd also love to hear your comments and thoughts on this year's impact report if you've had a chance to look through that. Okay, so some numbers on the screen. So your donations support the work we do with a wide range of partners in India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Nepal. The financial institution partners we work with were able to reach 6.6 million families in 2025 with small loans. These loans fund all types of small business. So that can be crafts, small-scale manufacturing, village shops and services, and smallholder farms, just as some examples. We also have a specialist agriculture finance program that reached over 300,000 families in 2025. And also school fee loans are another specialist type of lending that the Opportunity Network supports. And we supported almost 40,000 school fee loans in Asia in 2025. We're also very excited about the growth of our health program in 2025. Just moving on to the next slide, thank you. So Annie will talk about some of the really exciting developments there, the impact we're seeing from those programs. But overall, we are directly reached more than 265,000 people with our health program in 2025, including through mobile clinics, health education, and other services, as Annie will take us through. And a small but, for me, really exciting part of that program is health financing. So we provided 1,143 emergency medical loans in 2025. We expect strong growth in that part of the program going forward. And lastly, I wanted to mention our Resilient Villages program that provides holistic support to remote and rural villages in Indonesia. And that served over 3,000 community members in 2025. I know many of you are keen supporters of that program, and thank you for that support. One of the things that stands out about Resilient Villages is it's a great example of providing multiple types of support to tackle the multiple needs of families living in poverty. I mean, poverty is not typically the lack of one access to one service or the lack of one thing. The poorest households lack not just access to loans and savings accounts, but also lack access to education, training, and healthcare. So our organizational philosophy, and this has developed over the time that I've been with Opportunity, and it's developed based on those years of experience. And that philosophy is that it's a combination of microfinance, access to healthcare, access to education finance, and agricultural support services that will lift communities out of poverty and keep them out of poverty. So we're excited about these numbers. These are up front at the start of our impact report because they show the scale of the services that your donations are supporting. But we also, of course, we want to be sure that the services are effective and that they're having a positive impact on the families that we reach. So we're also committed to collecting data and collecting independent data on the impact of those programs. In 2025, we surveyed 1,300 of our microfinance clients across 5 of our partners in India and Indonesia. These surveys were carried out independently by an organization called 60 Decibels. They give the clients the chance to share their feedback on the services they received and to tell us the impact that support had on their lives. So there are a number of stats in the impact report, a number of results. I just wanted to pick out 2 of those figures. So firstly, 91%, around 9 out of 10 clients that were surveyed reported that their quality of life had improved thanks to the services they received. And 8 out of 10 female clients, 8 out of 10 women surveyed, reported improved confidence thanks to the services that they had received. So we're committed partners in that data collection project. We have been doing those surveys with 60 decibels for 4 years now. That's because we want to be transparent about the impact of the program. But it's not just about showing where we're doing well. It's also about learning from what our clients tell us and acting on that. So we collect a lot of feedback from clients through these surveys, including on problems or issues they have accessing services. If they didn't benefit from the services, why was that? And part of my role is to review these results and discuss the detailed results with the management teams of our partners. And we'll then look at what we can do to improve services. A couple of things we are learning. We are definitely learning that clients remain vulnerable even as their income grows. So the loans, the other services are helping the clients improve their income. But in 2025, 45% of the clients surveyed still said it would be difficult or very difficult to raise money in an emergency. So, it's a journey out of poverty. We are helping those clients moving out of poverty, but we need to continue to provide them with support. Also, a next crucial step on that journey is access to technology. So we know that digitally provided services are more flexible, can help us reach more remote and more excluded clients. But there are barriers around using technology, accessing technology, and that's something that we're looking to tackle going forward. So just conscious of time, I'll stop there. I'm excited to be able to share this data, some numbers. I see a couple of questions and we'll come on to those. I did want to just finish by saying that, yes, there are big numbers in the impact report, but just to say behind each of these numbers are individuals, and the individual impact stories matter. So we do include client stories in the publication. If you look there, one that I would draw your attention to, the story of Lata jumps out for me. She started a small manufacturing business in a shed to produce disposable bowls and plates, because she had noticed there was a demand for this in her community. And I think that's interesting because, really, only if you were living in that community, only if you were part of that community, could you come up with that idea. So it's not that opportunity we can come up with that idea, or even our partners, the institutions we work with, would come up with those solutions. Instead, we're providing women living in those communities with the access to finance that will allow them to realize those ideas and those opportunities. What is common across that story, for a lot of the other clients that I've been lucky enough to meet myself, is that when we see income increasing, businesses improving, that income is very typically invested in kids' education, in improving the family home. And that is typical across a lot of the clients that we serve. And that's what excites me about the impact of the programs, even though, as I say, I'm a data nerd, and I love numbers. So happy to answer any questions. I'll hand it back to yourself, Kieran.
Yep, thank you for that, Calum. That's great. So a couple of things. Firstly, if you are not able to see the slides that I'm sharing from my laptop, just check with your Zoom settings. There's also Jai's giving you a bit of info in the chat if you're having trouble with that. So be helpful, especially when we watch a video in a second. So that'd be great. One question from Alexander that's come through as well, like the number of clients that have been supported in the 2025 results. 6 million is an enormous number. How is that tabulated? Do you have a way that we can understand that, Callum?
Yeah, so yes, those are large numbers. These are long-standing partners that we've been working with for many years. So that is not something that's happened overnight. We've been supporting partners like Cashbore, ESAP, Pahel in India, who all have upwards of 600,000, a million clients. And we've helped them grow, even going as far back as when I started around 2007, 2008, 2009. They can grow like that because also they leverage the funding that they receive through donations. So the loans are, the money is lent to the clients use the funds in their business, they repay the loans, and then those institutions will re-lend to new clients. So the numbers are building over time, but they can also leverage those funds by borrowing money from other sources to increase the base of funding that's available to clients. So yes, it's a large number. It's also exciting because it gives us a significant base of clients to also offer other services to. So we're looking to add healthcare, we're looking to add access to specialist types of finance. Partners like Pahel are now offering climate finance products to these clients as well. So yes, it's definitely something we're excited about.
And just a quick one from Bob here as well. Do you have the idea of what the average loan size and the average time to repay a loan would be off the top of your head?
Yes, so the average time in India would be 2 years. The average loan size I am going to find while we're still on the call, and just to get the latest figure on that, and I will share that with you.
Thank you, Calum. Appreciate that. That's really wonderful. So we'll come back to you with that, Bob. So moving on, for those of you who have been around Opportunity for a period of time, you would probably know our story of the founder of David Bissau, 50 years ago and that first loan. Some of you may have even met him or connected with him at some stage, and it's really quite an exciting story. So I was just going to share a quick video, a bit of an update.
God had created me to be an entrepreneur. I realised that the best thing that I had to contribute to society was those entrepreneurial skills.
At Opportunity International Australia, our very beginnings 50 years ago were born out of imagination, innovation, and an entrepreneurial spirit. Our founder, David Bissau, a global pioneer in microfinance, thought about a problem differently and gave a $50 loan to a struggling farmer in Indonesia. David has been hailed for his innovative approach to world poverty, something he calls the economics of enough. Thanks to David Bissau, millions of female entrepreneurs have broken the cycle of poverty in their families for good.
I had a sense that I was put on the planet for a purpose.
Starting life in an orphanage, his early challenges made him a creative problem solver.
I think the discipline that was sewn into me has affected the way that I've been able to change my life.
David's entrepreneurial spirit led him to become a millionaire in his 30s. Having successfully run many different businesses, he decided to pivot his focus to less fortunate communities globally. He soon realised traditional aid and development solutions may help, but did little to actually break the cycle of poverty. The $50 loan in 1976 was to a man named Ketut in the remote village of Blimbinsari in Western Bali to buy a sewing machine to start a tailoring business.
Bagaimana?
The loan is very useful.
Nearly 50 years ago.
Saya bisa hidup oleh kata itu.
It's just not part of my nature to give people charity. I'd much rather enable them to have that dignity to work. There's another shot of Ketut as he became more successful in his business.
Ketut and his wife Putu are now retired, living comfortably in Bali. Their son Kamong now owns and runs their furniture business in Denpasar, and the community of Blimbinsari is thriving.
Microfinance by itself is not enough. We really have to consider the whole person. How do you give that opportunity to people to have dignity in their lives, to have fulfillment in their lives, to have purpose in their lives? It's not just an impact for today, it's an impact for tomorrow.
Opportunity works with millions of women and their families globally to create pathways out of poverty, using microfinance as a stepping stone and providing health, education, agricultural training and support. Today, Opportunity International Australia is part of a global network providing holistic solutions to end poverty in more than 30 countries.
It's really special to be able to, I guess, see David and Ketut and Putu come together after their, 50 years ago for them to, without putting it crudely, still be around to be able to spend time together. So that's a wonderful example of, I guess, what opportunity does. And at the risk of stealing a line from our CEO, Scott Walters, who we'll chat to in just a second, it's Putu is the real hero of this story. She was the one that took the sewing machine that was bought with that $50, and she created the business and built it. And there was a really wonderful partnership between both of them, but it wouldn't have happened without her as well. So, a really wonderful story, and hopefully you've been able to connect with that. And so in saying that, I'm going to invite Scott Walters to join us. We're going to have a quick chat with him about where opportunity is and kind of some of that history as well. So Scott, it's lovely to be able to have this conversation with you. You've spent some time with David very recently as well. I'd love to hear about, from your perspective, why David's decision to give Ketut a loan instead of just giving him money was such an important decision.
Yeah, thanks, Karen, and great to be with you. Great to see so many people on board, and let me echo Karen's thanks at the top of the call as well for your support, for your passion for our work. David mentioned the word dignity twice in that video. So I think in part the answer to your question is dignity. The fact that our repayment rates are so high on the loans is because of the pride that these people take in repaying the loan. And as you also heard, David's not somebody to give charity. He in the true sense of that hackneyed phrase, he would much rather give a hand up than a handout.
Yeah, it's pretty key, and it's nice to kind of see that as part of our DNA. Still, as an organisation, 50 years on. From your perspective as well, what was the key motivator for opportunity initially, and is that kind of still part of who we are today?
Well, the key motivator for David has always been his Christian faith, and he and we continue to be motivated by the parable of the Good Samaritan. We cross ethnic boundaries, we cross boundaries of race and class, and if you're in need, we will help to support you. We believe it critically important that we honour Jesus' call to love and serve the poor, and that's why we get out of bed each day, and we will continue to do that as David started. He believes in the whole person, as do we, and you heard him say something about a loan is not just for today, but the dignity that it provides, the ability to get yourself and your family out of poverty is also for tomorrow, for your family, and also in many cases for the village, because it has a ripple effect through the whole village.
Yeah, and so we think about the impact in that as well, like 50 million lives that have been impacted over the last 50 years. The repayment rate is such a significantly high rate. What is the secret sauce that kind of makes the opportunity method work?
Trust. I think in a single word, it's trust. Here in Australia would be delighted with the repayment rates that we are securing. And of course, I can't help but go back to that old aphorism that the best way to work out if you can trust somebody is to trust them.
Yeah, I think that works well. And so it might be a good time to hand over to you now to speak more about the journey and kind of where we are and where we're going. So over to you, Scott. Thanks.
Thanks, Kieran. And I hope people are hearing me okay. I'm in a hotel room and it's coming through a bit crackly for me, but I hope it's coming through clearly and crisply to you wherever you are in the country. And again, let me say thank you to all of you for joining, for the support that you've given us, whether you've advocated for us, whether you've already financially supported us, whether you pray for us, however you show up as far as Opportunity International Australia is concerned. The whole team and the board, I'd like to share my thanks with you. And I'd also like to just reinforce with you that microfinance remains the platform from which we do everything, and that the need and the power of microfinance is as palpable as it ever was, and certainly when David and others like Muhammad Yunus set out on this journey. The chairman and I were in India back in October last year. We were actually visiting part of our health program, but may I assure you that the need for microfinance remains as big as ever. Yes, the poverty numbers around the world have come down, and certainly in India, they have come down, but there are still around 1 billion people in the world living below the poverty line of $4.15 US a day. And so our work is far from done. One of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, number one, in fact, is no poverty. We are not on track to reach that goal, and I don't think we'll reach it while on this side of the grass. But our work remains focused on doing the best that we can for that. And you've already seen some of the impact numbers shared by Calum about the extent of what we've been able to achieve in recent years. And over the period, we estimate something close to 50 million people and their families have been supported and have had their lives changed by the power of microfinance. And it's important too that we, like David, we don't see poverty, we see potential. And you heard Calum talk about an individual person, a story, because behind all of these numbers, there are individuals and there are families and there are children and there are the need for food, clothing, shelter, and importantly, for most of these families, educating their kids, because the women, and yes, they're mostly women, want their children not to have to live the sorts of lives that they have had to live. And so we look to the future and we think, well, what is it? What's going to be our next S-curve in terms of driving down the number of people living in poverty around the world? And there are two key things that stand out to me. One, Calum has already mentioned, and that's digital innovation within the microfinance world. Increasingly, the use of mobile phones, the use of the internet is helping bring poverty relief mechanisms faster and more effectively into communities, both rural, urban and peri-urban. And so we are to partner with organisations who have this technological ability to bring these life-changing technologies to bear for people who would otherwise not have access to microfinance and lending. And that's changing more lives faster than we've seen in the last decade. And the second thing is health. We all know that if you're sick, you can't work. But for many of us, for most of us, in fact, in this country, if you're sick and you can't work, you have sick pay provided by your employer. But for the clients that we serve and that you support, there's no such thing as sick pay. And so we are increasingly focusing on primary health care in the communities and the countries in which we work. We're enormously excited about the potential for this as a poverty alleviation mechanism. But I'm not the expert on this, but we are blessed to have Annie Wang, our Global Head of Health, with us tonight. And it's my pleasure to introduce her and hand over to her to tell you a little bit more about why health is so exciting and how you can join us in growing this magnificent intervention to support many more hundreds of thousands, millions of people living in poverty. So I'll kick it over to you now, Annie.
Thanks so much, Scott. And so for those of you I haven't met, my name is Annie Wang. I'm head of global health, and I've been at Opportunity just over 5 years. And it's a real privilege to work in an organization with such a strong legacy. And I think also really strong core founding principles. And I hope you see that we continue to carry that legacy and that DNA into our future for the next 50 years. So I want to start this segment telling you a bit more about one of the areas we're very excited about in the future with another story. So we heard a little bit in Calum's introduction and also with the story of Ketut in the video. And so I thought it'd be good to take a moment to meet one more of our clients that I actually had the pleasure of meeting last year. So in this photo is Sandhya. Sandhya is a micro entrepreneur, and like so many of our clients, nearly 6 million, as we heard in Calum's presentation, Sandhya was able to access a small business loan and able to start a tiffin business where she cooks hot lunches for the nearby office workers. And now this is Sandhya's entire home. So she, her husband, Ketan, and their 2 kids live in a single room, no wider than a parking space. And as you're going into Sandhya's house or room, you're walking through one of the very busy slums of Mumbai. And for those of you who had the privilege to come to visit with us, you'll know that there's a lot of senses, children running past you, often without shoes on, the sound of water dripping on tarp and informal housing, lots of smells, especially concrete and sewage and shared latrines. But every family shares the same vision for their family as you and I, which is a better future for their children. So Sandhya's story starts, as many of us do, with that hope of a better future, particularly for her daughter, because Sandhya was unable to complete high school, and Angel is just starting 10th standard or grade 10 now. Now, one day, as Ketan was on his way to work, and he works at a nearby hotel, and he was on his way rushing to work, he saw a very busy bus. These are private buses, informally operated. And a little boy was just trying to squeeze on in this very busy morning commute time. And he saw that the boy was really struggling to get onto this bus. And so he rushed over to help. But in that split moment that he rushed to help the boy, a car drove into Ketan and dragged his body for over 100 meters. And you can imagine for any family, any type of medical emergency is devastating. And I know that's been the case for my family. But in Ketan's situation, the fact that he didn't show up to work that day meant that he was out of a job. And as Scott mentioned, for Sandhya and these families, your health is your greatest asset. You don't work, you don't eat. In Ketan's situation, he required multiple surgeries, blood transfusions, and the medical bills started to add up over time. And it eventually accumulated to over 7,000 Australian dollars, which is over a year and a half of the household income. And now with half of the household income, Sandhya has to manage without savings, without insurance, and doing her absolute best to keep her daughter in school. Sandhya went to Angel's school to plead with the schoolmaster to delay the $60 fee that she was unable to pay for the term. And continued to tell me, I was fighting for my family then. I continue to be fighting for my family. I will always be fighting for them. What struck me most in meeting Sandhya was that her situation, unfortunately, is not unique. As you heard from Scott and also alluded to in Calum's presentation, health is the number one reason why families fall into or deeper into poverty. Health is a number one reason why micro-entrepreneurs like Sandhya are less productive in running their business. And in this story, Sandhya, like so many of the Sandhyas in the world, may have been lucky enough to have access to a small business loan. But when tragedy struck, they were unable to access support to manage this unexpected health expense. Thankfully for Sandhya, she was able to access a small health loan through one of our cooperative partners. And she was able to receive that loan within a 24-hour period. And that started to spark something for us, which we developed over the last 2 years called a Health Finance Hub. And in the course of the last month or two, it's been a real privilege to share some of these early results with our long-term supporters and newer supporters too on this journey. So Opportunity has been working alongside microfinance partners to figure out how we can address these emergency health financing needs. And the model that we've iterated towards is integrating a suite of products, including loans, insurance, and savings for both planned and unexpected health expenses, alongside that primary care and preventative services. Women in particular often delay or forego seeking care. And when they do get sick, are going to informal chemist shops, often taking unnecessary painkillers, antibiotics, and even steroids to get to work. So we wanted to design an integrated solution to support the millions of Sandhyas around the world. We have a little bit of data to share with you. While we're not quite yet at 6 million beneficiaries in our health program, we are excited to share some of our early results. Before we get to that, I wanted to show a picture of what a health finance hub looks like. So this is Jayasri, one of our community health leaders, and thank you for those of you who have supported that program. A health finance hub is just a single room in an urban slum that has a coverage of about 50,000 households. And by integrating the health services and financing solutions, we make sure that as Sandhya is able to repay that loan to cover the health expenses, that again, similar to our microfinance model, those funds are reused, recycled to be able to help the millions of more Sandhyas out there. In terms of our early impact data, as I mentioned, these are some of our early pilot results. We've had a 99% repayment, matching our microfinance portfolio for our first just over 1,000 loans. But more importantly for me, to know that these loans predominantly are targeting women and girls' health. So things like maternal health loans, again, looking at child health loans. Often we look at rare disease and also critical illness for children as some of our key funding areas for these emergency health loans. And that we're able to measure the reduction of out-of-pocket costs. In Sandhya's situation, she knew that had Opportunity not been there, she would have been forced to take a loan from a local money lender that typically charged 60 to 120% interest. And she knew those are traps. By committing to this kind of informal lender or loan shark, she's ensuring that our family is trapped in that cycle of poverty. And instead, because she was able to have an affordable health financing product, we're able to reduce that catastrophic expense, not only in terms of the interest that she would have had to pay, but also in terms of making sure that she has the support to get Ketan into the right care at the appropriate time in the most convenient and high quality providers that are available. And that's why we want to make sure always that our goal is to support Sandhya and her family to get back on their feet as soon as possible. And when she is able to fully repay that loan, encourage her family to be able to adopt savings and insurance products for the future. Each health financing hub is projected to break even after 3 to 4 years, and we are on track to do that with our first 4 operational hubs. But of course, there's more work to be done. So for those of you on this call who've been supported Opportunity for, as Kieran mentioned, 10 years, 20 years, and for that special person on the call who's been supporting us for 30 years, you may be wondering what we're doing in health. And what is our role in the global health sector, which is the most crowded NGO sector in the world? Now, what financial inclusion or microfinance has demonstrated well is the ability to develop scalable and sustainable solutions that empower people and their families. And the global health sector has demonstrated that, yes, health outcomes are just as important in that consideration for economic empowerment. What Opportunity International uniquely does as the only organization in the world that has the credibility and vision to work at that intersection, working alongside existing microfinance organizations to be able to integrate health financing and health services. We believe we're the first organization in the world to be able to pioneer unsecured health loans. So Sandhya's loan had no collateral, and there was no way for us to take her to court or take some legal repercussion had she not paid that loan. Our loans are made on the basis of trust. And as Scott said, trust is what makes our model work. It's made our model work over the last 50 years, and we believe that social capital and trust in the potential of our clients and trust in the institutions we partner alongside is core to what opportunity, mission, vision, and success. So before I wrap up, I want to come back to this story, because similar to Ketut and that partnership with Putu, in this story, I also want to tell you a bit more about Ketan. That morning that Ketan was going to work, and he passed that little boy trying to squeeze onto that crowded bus, I think a lot about what was going through his mind. It's a busy morning. It's not his problem. He could have very easily just moved on and gotten through the rest of his day. But Ketan chose to step up and cross those barriers of inconvenience and culture and see the need that was in front of him, see the need of that little boy, and put that need above his own. And that's so aligned with the opportunity vision and the opportunity founding values of the Good Samaritans, is extending beyond these barriers of inconvenience to serve the need in front of you. I asked Angel, as I was leaving their house, what she thought of her dad. And as with any teenager does, she was a bit embarrassed and didn't speak up quite at first. And as I was saying, oh, it's okay if you don't want to share, she whispered really quietly, I know my dad is a hero. And I think we all have that potential, right, to step up. And David invited us into this calling 50 years ago to pioneer a really bold idea that we're able to provide access to small business loans to people and families living in poverty, that we're able to break that cycle of poverty and disadvantage by giving someone an opportunity. And so I invite you all on this call to step into this calling with us once again, to believe that no one, regardless of where they live, should fall into poverty because of an unexpected health expense that can be resolved by providing access to support, but also access to a small loan. What Ketan also, the story that the impact that it's had on me was that the standard that you walk past is the standard that you accept. And for Ketan that day, he believed that the standard he was walking past was not one he was going to accept. And I invite you again to consider your journey with us, your journey as a supporter, your journey as part of Opportunity's story, to not walk past the standard that you see, because this is not the standard that we should accept.
Thank you, Annie. Yeah, really, really grateful for you sharing that with us and part of your story. And it's hard to sit with a story like Sandhya and not feel the weight of it. Not just the hardship, but the reality that for so many families, it's a single moment that can undo years of progress. And that's the reality of health challenges that many of these families face. So it's exciting to be part of this new horizon for opportunity. As Scott was saying, microfinance is still core to who we are. But as an entrepreneurial organization there, we see opportunities and methods in which we can utilize our skills and the areas where we currently are to make a significant difference. So I'm going to pause for a second or two just to see if there's any questions or any thoughts that people have whilst on the call. And as you're considering that, just put up this slide which has the QR code to our landing page for our giving, our end of financial year appeal this year. And I would really encourage you to think about what your generosity could look like this year. Again, we are so grateful for so many of you who've been around for a long time, decades, some months, just whatever your period of time supporting Opportunity has been so far. We're just so thankful, and we encourage you to continue that with us. And so I think about what that might look like for you this year. It could be just giving a one-off donation. It's before the end of June. And I want to just give you a couple of figures which may be of interest to you. For every $200 that is given, that can send a finance hub worker to reach local communities with loans and support. For every $400 that gets given, that can provide a health finance hub with 1 month's supply of medicine. And for every $500, that can provide 83 people with telehealth checkups each month. So that might be something that you would want to look at as well. Again, the link is in the chat there if you want to click on that and make a donation. Perhaps an option for you is giving monthly. maybe you've been thinking about it for a while and you think, well, I think I can just give every month just a certain amount, and that just sort of evens out your giving throughout the year as a commitment that you wanted to make. And finally, perhaps leaving a gift in your will might be an option for you. And I know there are some on this call that have already done that. So thank you very much for your generosity. It's a really wonderful way to leave a legacy to Opportunity and the people that we're working with. So that might be something you want to have a look at. You can check out some information on our website for that. So regardless of where you're at tonight, again, I want to thank you and just encourage you to reach out to us if you have questions about the new health finance hubs, or anything to do with what's been discussed tonight. And we'd really love to have a conversation with you. But just to have you here, and to hear about where we're going in this next little while is an exciting time. So I have no questions to answer in the chat. So I think I will leave it at that and we can finish up tonight. But yeah, again, thank you so much. Feel free to enjoy the rest of your evening.